partners, as simple as they can be sometimes, because they're construction guys, they're simple. But, when I ask them, what do you want to know? One is like, I need to be able to read a tape measure. Right? And that goes a long ways. I mean, if you think about it, it's not just construction. I mean, it's life in general. So anyways, we're in the process of, and I might skip ahead on this too, Mark, so go ahead and go to the next one.
Like that?
Yes, perfect. The senior project plan. So we just started our December graduates today in their senior projects. We have the Western Roofing is on the panel. They have 2 people on the panel. Wright Brothers is on the panel. Building First Choice is on the panel. And then we've got some district employees on the panel. Our D's on the panel on Thursday. And what my goal is with this is to move these students that are graduating December and then in May, is I told like the Western Roofers, they were there, I'm like, look, if there's a kid that you want to talk to when this is overdone, when it's all over and done with, let me know, we'll pull them back in. And you can talk to them and do an interview right there on the spot. Let's get these kids hired and get them out there. We get a lot of kids that are, well, I want to go to CWI and get in the welding program or in the construction all program. Well, great, you need money to do those things, right? So, we talked about bringing those people in and telling the kids that you might not, we have some that are, veterinarians, right? They got to get in the veterinarian program, but they want to be veterinarians, get into a program, but they need to get the money to go to school, right? And that's another piece that we'll go back on the slide here in a minute. But so anyways, I really want to set up to where these kids are getting in there, they're doing their senior projects, and then they're getting handpicked by these people. So I want to talk to that kid because he's got a great personality, he looks you in the eye, he's got good social skills. Let's bring him back in and let's offer the kid a job. So that's really the direction we want to go in. Go ahead and go back to, yes.
There we go.
We're fortunate enough to have an intern this year. Our counselor's niece is going through her program. And so she's doing a lot of her time with our school. She's been spending a lot of time with the seniors, getting them dialed in, working with our behavior program over the middle school. Getting a program because we're going to start implementing the program over there. She's been working with our seniors, getting them the FAFSA, any monies out there that we can get them, helping them to apply for schools, those types of things. And I think we've lacked that in the past, not because we didn't have a great counselor, we just didn't have the manpower. And for lack of better terms, free labor, right? She's here, she's getting her intern done, and she's doing a great job. So it's really helping our kids out, on the whole. Was there one more on there, Mark?
Just the one you already signed.
Okay.
Talked about.
Okay. That's all I got. Any questions? Taking too long already? I get it.
No.
No.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thank you so much.
Great work.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you also.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to discussion item C. And who is going to be presenting that? You?
Just me.
Okay.
And this is more an extension of last month's. We have a slew of different clubs. There was one more that just hadn't gotten everything in place. This is a creative writing
Okay.
club. You saw the request on the board document. There was I called Mr. Hollinger just to make sure there was no other information that needed to be addressed. He said there wasn't, it's a pretty basic setup for a club.
What teacher is he? A writing English teacher?
Yes. Yes. Any questions or comments on that one? That's one we'll have an action item for later in the meeting.
Thank you. Yes. All right, let's move on to the FFA overnight trip.
Yeah, and this is an overnight trip. It's an overnight trip to Boise, but the reason that they stay overnight is because the conference is held there. They've got meetings going and activities all the way into the evening. This is one that annually we have done this kind of a trip, but we have to ask for that each time. Any questions on the FFA conference meeting?
No, if they keep bringing home awards like they just did, I'm all for it.
Right, for sure. Also, no questions?
No questions.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Let's move on to E, the report on the Career Ready Students Grant Plans.
Okay, I'm just gonna get this agenda back on just so we.
Nope, you're good.
Okay, the Career Ready Grant, that is, as Mr. Diffie alluded to, that, and we mentioned that, you know, we had just gotten word in our last meeting that we had been approved for that grant. Just wanted to kind of give you an update. We're looking at, rather than going the RFQ CMGC, we're just looking at a straight design build. Just because it's a smaller scale project, we can move quicker, more nimbly to get this going. So we've already reached out to Design West to create a schematic that we can work with. We're going to sit down with Mr. Anger, Mr. Diffie, Stacy Kessler, our CTE coordinator, myself, a few other folks to bring in what they would like to see in that design. And then as soon as Design West has a draft plan, we'll bring that to the board for approval. Once that's been approved, we'll put that design, and Design West will help us put that out to bid. And then the different companies can bid on putting that building up. But this where this is smaller, it's a grant driven, we felt like it was a better approach to just go the design build pathway. So unless there's any concerns with that pathway, that's how we'll proceed. But like I said, we've already talked with Design West. They're getting a meeting scheduled before the Christmas break. So as soon as I have a date, a projected date, I'll let you know, and we'll get that on the agenda at the very next meeting so we can keep it moving forward.
Okay, exciting.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Thank you.
No, thank you. Let's move on to item F, the facility RFQ review committee board member assignment.
Okay, so this is one, we put the RFQ out for the elementary school for both the architecture and the construction manager as a general contractor. Those will be in the papers on Wednesday. We've already put the necessary legal documentation in for that. And they'll have about until right after the break to for us to receive those proposals or those qualifications. Once we have that, we'll be putting a facility committee together to review all the RFQs. Typically, we would have 2 board members be a part of that committee that will then bring the full request to the board. So that would need to be decided upon as a board so that we can, essentially the assignments made, so that when we start into the process of those reviews, I know who I need to reach out to.
When will you be reviewing those? Do you kind of?
It'll be, we have a timeline. Let me bring that up for you. I can give you the idea of that
You wanna do
timeline.
that?
So one second.
Jay, how do you feel about doing that?
Yes, I'd really like to be a part of that. Again, I had so much valuable input, being on the committee the last year or two, and it would be great to continue to be involved with that.
Okay.
And so just for the board's information, the way that it was all written out, the deadline for the statements of qualifications is January 11th. And I'll put all these in an email just so that you've got them. But January 11th, evaluation committee rankings would be then the 12th through the 17th. So we would take those and have about a week to roll through those.
So you're looking at all the qualifications?
Yeah, you're looking at the
Citing.
packets that they bring,
Okay.
and we've got a rubric that they would score.
Okay.
And then the committee would look at, based on those scores that they gave and the conversations that they have, they would determine if additional interviews were needed. If they were, we would schedule those interviews for the January 22nd and 23rd. And then we would be ready by the 25th to give a recommendation to the board. So I'll put that in an
Okay.
email just so that you've all got
Thank you.
those dates typed out.
Perfect. So
Yes, thank you.
is everyone okay with Jay and Jake? Are you okay with that? I think that'd be great.
Okay, Perfect. We will have that.
Thanks, guys.
You bet. Thank you. Let's move on to the calendar update.
Okay, and this is really quick. It's just more so that you're aware, we are already working on the calendar for 24-25. But the goal, we're starting now because the goal is to present to you as a board both 24-25 and 25-26. So that we get into a cycle of having a 2-year calendar. And then all we'll be doing each year is creating one. But where we're creating 2, we wanted to start earlier and get that to you. So we would anticipate by the February board meeting, we will have gone through all the steps we need to. And during the January meeting, I'll have some drafts that I can present to you as a board so that you can give feedback on those, what we have as we start working towards it.
Oh, okay.
But the goal is to have that both years done by February so that we can keep moving forward on it. And we have the committee is comprised of teachers and administrators from all of our schools. We have representation from our education association, one from each school, just so that everybody's got a say. That in our first meeting, they've requested that we prepare some surveys to put out to parents, just so we can get some feedback as we start looking at some of the decisions that we'll need to.
So that's how you'll involve the parents
Yeah.
versus having them on the committee?
Right.
Some on the committee.
Right. We just felt like that was a way to get a full view, because sometimes if you just have 1 or 2 parents, they might have a lot of students that are participating in the schools, but they have one perspective based on what their students participate in.
Sure.
So we're trying to branch that out and have a bigger view. Any other questions on the calendar, where we're headed there? Okay, that's all I have on the calendar.
Perfect. Let's go to the leadership premium update.
Okay, so just as a refresher, prior to 2 years ago, leadership premiums were a state-funded program that had an expectation of the board approving those positions. These are for all kinds of things. You can see kind of a general grouping: curriculum team, RTI, mentor teachers, hard to fill positions, those kind of things as we work through. And I can go through, there was a list of all the different positions that you saw in the board documents. That was a state-funded thing until 2 years ago. 2 years ago, the legislature stopped the funding for that. And so last year and this year, as part of the negotiated agreement, the district has agreed to continue paying those. When we looked at the positions for this year, we had a certain budget, but it didn't quite allow us to move to that full $900 per stipend. And so we lowered that to $825. We had a committee of teachers that was a part of the decision as we were working through that. And let me just bring it up here really quick. Excuse me. Sorry.
That's
Right there. So the group, they asked for a couple of things, like we have positive behavioral intervention and support. So some of the folks that are working through that program being paid out of these premiums, and the committee recommended that we move that to a district program rather than keeping it as a stipend. That's something that we'll be looking at. They asked that we reach out to our, to those that are getting the stipends, to the other teachers in the school, to talk about how they've been used, to get any recommendations back. They also asked that we try and get all of that put together by May or June of this coming year, so that when teachers come in the fall, all those positions are laid out and a full description of them is available, rather than trying to piecemeal it together as we go along. And they've talked about renaming some of the things and fine tuning some of the positions, but we really haven't changed a lot of the positions that we've been paying over the last several years. And I'll just go through, we won't read any of these, but You see things like mentor teacher leads, the curriculum adoption committee will typically receive stipends just because they put in a lot of time. We can look like at Middleton High School, the student council advisor is one of those because there's a lot of time put in, but it's not necessarily a,
Yeah,
there's the graduation coordinator, just putting graduation together is a big task. And so we put some of those in. I'm just gonna scroll on down. You see PBIS leads, after school band advisor, IDLA advisor, community outreach coordinator. I mean, these are all different positions that you're seeing. And so that full list, again, was in your packet. Let me just make sure that it was there.
It wasn't,
It is.
Okay,
it must have come later then.
okay, so
There, click on that.
It's not in.
it's showing up with 2 documents on there.
Where am I supposed to be in here? Leadership committee.
Just want to make sure it's showing
Oh,
up.
it came after I looked at it then.
Okay, so if, these are something that we'll renew on a yearly basis. So if there's anything that we need to adjust, please reach out. But any questions regarding the process, the positions?
Yes, but I can't, I'd need to look at that because I didn't get that in the beginning. I
Okay,
just got this thinking, okay, you're gonna explain it.
okay. Would you like me to take some time and go through some of
No,
those?
I'll just ask you later
Okay.
as far as, I think it's just how you're doing it type thing.
Okay, and it would be similar to what like I said, we didn't make any significant changes besides the total amount that was being paid from what was approved last year.
So where, out of what fund is this coming out of?
Right now, it's coming out of the general fund because it was a negotiated item and so where there's not direct funding coming from the state,
Right.
it would have to be coming out of our general fund to be able to pay for that.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, are we good?
And that's all I had on that topic.
Let's move on to policy review. And I'm gonna guess that's you.
Yep, that is me. And I should say, Mrs. Pennington would have been here to go over policies with you, but she has some very sick children at
Oh.
home. So she has been home with her sick children, taking care of them. Well, excuse her tonight. The first policy, and these are all first readings. Oh my goodness, come on. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to go back to that list. Maybe. Okay. The first policy is policy 2240, which is dealing with class size. And the only thing we're doing to this policy is updating some numbers on that would reflect what we agreed to in our negotiated agreement. So the negotiated agreements changed some of the class size numbers, and we're updating that to reflect that. I would recommend that we just give this till next month to have any questions that might need to be answered, but it's something that could probably be approved next month if you don't have any significant concerns. Any questions on that policy? Like I said, a quick update on that one. Digital citizenship and safety education. This is an optional policy. It's an update to an optional policy, but what we've been seeing a renewed, or I shouldn't even say renewed, but an increased number of questions and concerns relating to how students interact with and utilize digital, whether it's their laptops that they're using, of the effect of social media, those kind of things, and how we're teaching them. So we've not had this specific policy in our board policy book before. And we felt like, based on some of the feedback that we've been getting, that this would be a policy that would be helpful for us to work through as both a district and a board. This is actually what they sent us as an update to that policy, but set where we didn't necessarily have that policy in before. We felt like that would be an appropriate thing to move forward. Any specific questions on what we're looking at for this initially?
What does this cover as far as, like, this is district-owned machines, district
Correct.
provided internet access, those types of things?
Or anything that we're using to promote safety in the use of, so it's, when you teach digital citizenship, it's giving an idea of when that's going to be taught, how that's going to be taught, what types of topics we're going to be focusing on to make sure that students we hand them a device, but we also hand them the education to know how to use that device appropriately. That's the overall goal.
So basically, we haven't been doing this
Well, we've been doing some of those things, but it's just not been in policy.
in policy, but do we have an internet safety coordinator?
Well, technically, but not really.
Okay.
Because, so what I say technically, but not really, that means we do not have one person that is designated as the internet safety director. Our current technology director typically serves in that capacity. So the functions, the things that he does on a day-to-day basis, if we had a question regarding anything that this director would do, we would be sending it his way. And that may still be what we choose to continue, is have that be a duty outlined underneath his job description. But until we have a policy in place, it's hard to move that officially in there. And then it allows us to create some formality around how we get those things done.
Because it looks like, in terms of having a policy like this, that there's going to be some added professional development for
Correct.
teachers and administrators.
Correct.
There's also, with this internet safety coordinator, however that's looked at down the road, parents and guardians would be able to,
Reach out to that person.
know about what's happening.
Yep,
as
and
far
when
as-
they had questions, we would direct them to that person. Again, just adding some structure to what's been piecemeal across the district right now.
Because just as it's written, there's a lot of that instruction that's put on teachers.
Correct. And so what we have to make sure, and that's why we're starting this as a process with the policy, is we have to make sure that we create opportunities for those teachers to receive that instruction so that they can meet policy. We don't want to put a policy in place and then you're on your own to figure that out. So that'll be a big part of what we're doing as well.
So as far as up here that's blocked out, which I'm assuming
And none of
ISBA.
yeah, that's ISBA's thing.
Did
But
that.
we can do whatever we need to
we
with
just
it
kind of need to revamp this a
Correct.
little bit for our district.
for our district.
Okay.
Correct. Any questions on that one? Okay. I should say any other questions. Professional Standards Commission Code of Ethics, this is just an update for the Code of Ethics. And I'm just, when we start looking at different policies, having our Code of Ethics policy updated always just keeps us in line, so that if we have to do something in the area of an ethics violation, our policy already matches the what's being offered within the state. And so this adds the language that allows us to do that.
Perfect.
So are teachers given a copy of that
At the beginning of
at
each
the
year.
beginning of
Yep.
each year, regardless if they got it last year?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, and we do that as part of our series, I can't remember what they're called, the vector trainings that we do that are the little, through our insurance carrier. There's a series of
Oh.
videos and trainings that they have to do. Each teacher has to go through each one, and Code of Ethics is one of those.
Okay, and so you have record or
Yeah.
this
We have a
principal has
record of,
record?
yep, well, we at the district, and
Okay.
that's something that Mrs. Goodson manages.
Thank you.
Okay, any other further questions? Next one is personnel files. This is a recommended update to a required policy. We have to have this policy in place. This adds the direction to not place attorney communications in employee files. And that becomes a legal issue because there's certain things that are allowed.
Like client privilege, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So it clears up the attorney-client privilege that is, we deal with when it comes to a person's personnel file. It doesn't put in, we wouldn't put in a person's personnel file, which travels with them. And so we would not want privileged information going from one district to another, and this just cleans that up. That's the primary change to that policy. Any concerns, questions? Okay, next one is the Student Activity Fund, I believe, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so Student Activity Fund. This is a policy, again, that we do not have in place, but we feel is very needed right
Yes.
now. There's been a lot of questions about how our funds are utilized, especially at the high school with all of the activities that come through the high school. And so we felt like, one, this is a perfect time as it's something that's already being, updated at the state level. It gives us some chance to, again, put some structure around. And more than anything, we're looking at opportunities to be more transparent about how those funds are used. Because right now, if a parent were to ask, how did these fundraiser dollars, how is it, what program did it go to and how was it used?
Mhm.
We can show them that, but it's sometimes a convoluted process to get that in front of them. And being able to more quickly and clearly outline how funds are used, received by the district, and then used for our different student activities, I think it's going to only help us as we continue to build the
Agree.
transparency that we need. So that's a big piece of what we're doing with this policy.
I think that's fantastic.
So we've never had this policy in place at all, but it doesn't mean that we're not following some of the best practices in terms of how you handle the funds. So I don't want to give the impression that we think that there's some misuse of the funds,
Just to
but
ensure
it's clearing up
transparency.
so that anybody can look at that and see that.
And yes, thank you.
I agree.
Any questions on that policy?
Is there a way to make it so that it's on meeting, like with every month? We can
Yes.
Show that?
Now, we can do that each month, or we can set up on a month to month, like every 2 months. However, that's totally at the discretion of the board, how you'd like those reports put out. But we can put reports out at any time. For me, the importance is getting a report that people can interpret and understand.
Yes, I guess. So it's understandable,
Correct.
not just
Because
looking at a ledger.
if you give them a ledger, it's all the information's there, but it's hard for them to interpret without
Yes.
somebody sitting down with them. And so that's part of the goal, is to get that more clear.
That would be fantastic.
That's this official financial record
Correct.
of the student activity.
Correct.
That's going to be
We-
designed to our district as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions, concerns? Well, that looks like those are all the policies and they're all first readings. So I would recommend moving those to a second.
I would like to make a motion that we move policy 2240, 2335, 5280, 5500, 5500P, and 7260 to a second reading.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
Aye. All right, let's move on to action items. I would entertain a motion to approve or deny the leadership premium update.
I make a motion that we approve the leadership premium update.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve or deny the writing club formation at the Middleton High School.
I move that we approve the writing club formation at Middleton High School.
I second it.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. I would entertain a motion to approve or deny the FFA overnight trip to Boise.
I move that we approve the FFA overnight trip to Boise for the leadership conference.
Second?
I'll second that.
You take Jay's.
Thank you. Take Jay. We're gonna have Jay as the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much. With that being said, students, make sure you come up and get your agenda signed by one of us board members. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.